So you straight?
I'm straight. I'm
Hey.
about as straight as I'm gonna be right now. Like you can only ask so much of me.
I know, I know. Hey, Tracy, how are you?
Oh, Wulwyn, I'm well. I'm well. I'm getting it together. How are you?
When somebody says about 2 or 3 times, I'm well, I'm well, I'm well. They're trying to get it from here, down there and then up down to the heart, right?
You,
So we
you
need
ain't wrong on that one. That's for
we
sure.
need we need to uncover that. I'm well, I'm well, I'm well. So I'm
It's like
I'm
fine. It's
I'm
like
good.
whatever. You're like, how you doing? Fine. Okay, let's unpack that.
No, I'm good, Tracy. I'm good. But no, as I have a feeling we're gonna go in hot today. We're coming in hot. So hey, you shoot. What's going on? Let's unpack.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this week has been kind of interesting. I mean, as we know, we're off a day, right? We're not off a day. We moved up a day
Correct.
from our normal time because I'm going to be leaving early tomorrow morning to go to Florida for a women's speakers conference. And so you got all the prep stuff for that. Yesterday I'm looking at on Sunday, as I often do, I start looking at my week ahead and like trying to figure out like some things that I needed to run into town to do.
Uh-huh.
And so, I'm not thinking about holidays or, so anyway, I get this chunk of time and I'm all excited. I'm being productive. I'm on point, get in the car, get to the post office. And I'm like, wow, it looks kind of deserted. And then it suddenly dawns on me it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Like, that means the bank is closed too. So I came all the way into town for nothing. And so there's that moment of time where I'm thinking, I just wasted all this time I could have been using that that
Mm-hmm.
little conversation that goes on in our head.
Mm-hmm.
And instantaneously I'm like, oh, I don't want to go there because that's not productive. So
Gotcha.
I'm like, okay, what can I do? And they're doing all this reconstruction on the roads. So there's all these detours and just getting where I was a challenge. I'm like, now I get there and everything's closed. I'm like, duh. So I like, let me get some gas. I need some gas so I can at least do one thing and say I was productive when I was in town. So I go and I get gas and I get home and like, all right, looking at my schedule where I could squeeze it in today. And so I do that. I leave just I'm like a little bit of time before you and I come on and I'm going to go into town and do this. So I go to the bank first. And this is a good moment to remind us all about like our intuition. Because earlier today, as I'm trying to figure out what I need for the trip, I'm like, oh, I need to grab some cash and put it in my wallet. Like, and then I just kind of got involved and forgot to do that. But that thought had been on my mind. I should get some cash and put it in my wallet for my trip, but nonetheless. So I decided to go to the bank first this time, go to the bank, get to the post office, stand in line because, it's noontime and everybody's out doing their errands because yesterday everything was closed.
Uh-huh.
I get up there and the woman's like, do you have any cash? Because our internet is down, so we can't take cards. I never carry cash on me, and I was just at the bank. So I get out of line, go back to the bank, and I'm driving to the bank, and I'm thinking to myself, this is such a waste of time. But then this little voice came back and said, you can go to the bank. You've got money in the bank to go to. You've got a car to get you there. You don't have to jump on a bus and pay more bus fare to get down the road or walk or, take an Uber or whatever. I had the availability. It was literally 10 minutes down the road. So it's not like I went too far out of my way.
Wow.
And that became that thought process. And, as I got home and everything's done, yay, it's done. I met my daughter who was having lunch, during her break time. And we got to talking and she shared something similar about some challenges she's having with math. And she goes, just want to give you and dad a heads up with my grades going to be arriving in the next couple of days. And she was really disappointed in herself because she's always been an A student and, A, B student, but mostly A student. And she's struggling in a class and she's like, I feel like I let you down. I feel like I let me down. And I said, we can get frustrated with these moments of inconvenience or struggle, or I didn't meet what I shoulda, right? And just like I should have known yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. um, but I said, that's where we learn, honey. That's where we have these moments of we can sit there and shit all over ourselves, or we can look at that and say, when I fall down, I have a better perspective.
Correct.
Right. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel poorly, but I don't want to feel like I've
Mm,
not done my best. I know how that feels right now. And so she says, I have a goal, Mom, this is what I'm going to do for the next term. And we just talked about it,
yeah.
and I said, that right there, now you have that accountability. I mean, sometimes we have to fall down to know what it's like, to have to
Mm,
be more accountable, be more productive, be more for ourselves,
hmm.
right? Be more, aware, be whatever it happens to be, ask more questions, be more vulnerable. Because, she wasn't asking her math teacher for support or extra credit and that kind of thing, because everybody in the class is just a whiz at math. And, it just so happens that she's in a class where other people in her class are good at it.
Hmm.
I said, well, how do you feel in English when you're a whiz at that and other people are like, oh my God, it's so hard,
Correct.
So that's the thing that, it was a great conversation, because I had just come out of having this conversation with myself and among other things, but, just trying to remember those little gratitudes,
Mm,
when we talk about that type of thing all the time, but
yeah.
it's when it's in the moment. Like, we can write in our gratitude journal at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or whatever, but in the moment when we catch ourselves, in those frames of thought, or even just because it can go so fast from thought to emotion,
Correct.
and we're running on emotion before we know it, that frustration of, type of thing. It's like, what? I didn't need to go there.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
didn't need to be, maybe it's my knee jerk, but I can change that habit.
Correct.
So anyway,
Wow. Yeah. Susan had concluded, had put your entire what 2 3 minutes of speaking, and she said gratitude exclamation mark, and you did say the word. So true about being grat. Whew. When you said you got gas, you went to get gas before, right?
yeah, I went to get gas.
Yeah, you went to get gas. Then you came back.
We'll
um
replay in that. What? She had gas? What?
I know, for the car. And then when you came, you went to the station, to the post office. You had to drive back to the bank to get money. And you started to relive, and then you became, oh wow, thank God. The fact that you even got gas before to have gas to drive, and do, I mean, there's something's going on here. This saying it has a problem to show on the replay. I'm going to refresh it and see. It must be a. Oh yeah, it's on. It's back on. So it's just something on my side. Um, so on my end, this is where you said, "Well, and how are you doing now?"
That's right. How are you? I want to know
Oh,
how you're doing.
oh, thank you. Now I come.
Thanks for listening to me for the first 5 minutes of this conversation.
Hey, that's what we do, right? Sometimes we'll go. You know
Blah,
what?
blah,
We
blah, blah,
you
blah.
have we have a soliloquy here. Just go the entire 1 hour and then say, okay, take care, bye. But I finally got the answer. I am liberated. Oh my goodness, I am free. I am free. I am
Hmm.
free, Traci. And I finally found out that I know nothing. I swear, as funny as strange as it sounds, it's so liberating. I know nothing about anything. I am, whew. And what that allows me to do is, when somebody says something, or we're talking here, and I feel like I need to interject or put something in, I'm okay to say, sis, I don't know anything about that. Now I'll search it, I'll find it, I'll see. 2 weeks, I think it was a week or so ago, I was just thinking, and said, Lord, how can I become better? How can I and it just clicked. We have the pressure of having to speak when we're spoken to, when we asked a question, in that pressure, I remember the pressure when I was working in corporate America. The pressure of doing a presentation, that there was somebody else in the room who was smarter than I am, who knew more than I knew, and that pressure was, oh my goodness, I gotta come and talk, and then you'd have to interview, and everybody's like, not an interview, the presentation. Everybody like, great job. And when I resigned and just started to, hang with God and say, you know what, God, I'm just going to hang with you. The more I spend time with God in meditating and understanding this thing, the more I find I know nothing about this life, nothing. So all of a sudden it hit me, you know nothing, Wulwyn. And what I mean, I think you know what I'm saying here. We've talked for quite a while, so it's not like I don't know something about something, but I am so free to verbalize. I don't know anything, and so
Mm.
I'm liberated.
You know what I was listening to, it's kind of a combination. What I heard you say is between surrender, this concept of surrendering what we think we need to control. It's like literally one of my favorite quotes is "Man plans, God laughs."
Mm,
And I
mm,
just love it. Like I remind myself of that all the time. I'm like, oh,
mm.
putting all my ducks in a row, and I just like,
Correct.
okay, like look at me. And
Correct.
the other piece too is that, like what you were just talking about, is that we know only from our experiences, right? So we
Mm,
do know stuff, but we don't know, like capital T truth, right? And the pressure that we've been conditioned to think we need,
mm.
especially in corporate America, like that's, and depending on your position, right? Because everybody's looking at
Correct.
you for the answers, or whatever. But it is that not, it's not having to be responsible for everybody else's, safety, security, when they ask you that question, it's like, well, what would happen? Like, we're not even probably answering the question, but what the fear is around the answer to the
Correct.
question, what if I
Yes.
don't know?
Yes.
Right? What would that mean? Not only to how I look, right, in others' eyes, and in relation to this role that I'm playing as the one that people are looking to for the answers, but what would that mean to other people if they don't have the answer?
Ooh.
What is that? Am I letting them down? Am I, and so we go down this rabbit hole. And that's what I heard you say, is letting go of all that, feeling that we have to be responsible to other people's security and safety. Because see, I think that's what's coming up right now with all this stuff going on in the world, the way it
Mhm.
is that what most people are afraid of, and why they cling so much to the egoic being right, looking good, being comfortable, and being safe, is because there's so much uncertainty, and that feels like there's no security,
Mm.
and that's super scary, right? Not thinking that anything's secure, our bank accounts, our relationships, our businesses,
Yep.
our ability to be free and go about our daily business the way we want. All of this stuff is under siege right now in a lot of people's, you know the way they're
New
looking at
perspective.
things.
Yep. New perspective.
And
Mhm.
so it really does call to action that relationship that we have to this idea of security. And what I heard you say is that when we become free is
Mm.
when we stop trying to find the surety, therefore, i.e., the security in what's outside of ourselves, whether it's the right answers to questions, having a certain amount of money in our bank account, being able
Solutions.
to provide a certain lifestyle for ourselves and our family, whatever that is for us,
Yep.
right? And it's multiple things for us in our
Mhm.
lives. When we stop hinging the concept of surety with security,
Mm.
right? Because uncertain means not sure.
Correct.
When we stop putting surety and security as synonyms for one another, we start to realize then is, where is my security? If it isn't in my surety or my knowing, then where is it?
Mm.
It's in God. It's in
Mhm.
my trust in myself. I was talking to a client this morning, and he was saying
Mhm.
the first time he did that
Mhm.
thing that so many of his coaches have told him to do, which is plan, have strategic, productive focus time. And
Correct.
he did it yesterday. He finally was like, screw this. I've got too many outstanding things. I
I'm
need to get
gonna
this
do it.
done. Sorry. And he said he got it done. And I said, so how'd you feel? Like, what did you notice? And the first thing he said was, I felt reconnected with myself.
Wow.
I felt more aware of what was going on in my thoughts, my ideas, my mind, my ability to produce, my capacity, all of that. And I said, and how did that feel in the long run? I mean, sure, you got to check things off boxes and stuff, but having that productive time with yourself for that period of time,
Yeah.
he said, I said, when was the last time you felt that? He says, I have no idea.
Wow.
Right. So when we go into ourselves, the other thing is that how many times he had a list of all the things he wanted to release from his habitudes, his
Mhm.
habits. And I said, if you look at everything on that list, all of that will naturally go by the wayside when you start to attend to yourself and your
Mm.
needs,
Mhm.
because all those things are surrogacy for you not attending to your needs, right?
Mm.
So I said, did you feel relaxed after oh yeah, I felt super relaxed. I said, so you don't have to do this thing on your need to release list to feel relaxed. He was saying
Correct.
something he wanted to give up that he does every day to try to feel relaxed. That's not good for him,
Yeah.
and then other things, like not trusting himself,
Mm.
not feeling he's worthy, not all of these things that we all feel, we all struggle with.
Yeah.
Competition, I've been looking around myself lately, and it's really been big, this ego competition thing. Like, I mean, I said to my husband last night, I go, sometimes I just wonder, it's like, there's gazillions of coaches out there. Who am I? What kind of difference am I making? And
Mm.
my husband looked right back at me. He says, that's up to you to determine.
Ooh, drop mic.
I have him
Yeah.
around, he keeps me
Yeah.
accountable.
Yeah, I so last week I got on, I think Sarah and Jenny's girls who do stuff, and th- I think that was Sarah giving me a book called "I Heard God Laugh." Then I read it, went to that. In the conversation, Sarah wanted to unpack something, and she unpacked it, but it was half unpacked. And when I say the reason why I say it was half unpacked, Jenny and I started to go at it, not at it in terms of you're wrong, you're this. We started to give suggestions, our viewpoints. And when we give our viewpoints, you've been in that studio, correct?
Oh yeah.
So you
Yeah.
know how the four tables and there's a hole in it, and the space, rather, the space, because it's a square, just because of the way the tables are longer than the that's engineering, I'm not going to go in there anyway. So there's a space in there, a square. Don't get geeky and nerdy here. There- there's squares in there, there's square in there. So when she spoke, all I could see, I saw her words go in that square, in that hole. And when Jenny spoke, her words went in there. When I spoke, my words went in there. And we stared it up, like Bob Marley, stare it up. And we stared it up and stared it up. And I tell you, after we had mixed it, Sarah went, oh my goodness, this is what it is. And I was like, what's going on? She said, I had a good idea. Jenny brought, when she put her mix in there, it got better. And when you came, it got best. And I looked and I said, we know nothing. I think that's where it came from. And I think it lends to what you talked about last week. And I think you even wrote a post on it, and something that you're big on, the diversity and perspective, bringing in. When the three of us came in and brought that, I said to myself, I know nothing about anything. And until the husband and the wife can come in and say, we're a team, when the friends can come and say, what do you want to do today? What do you want to, okay, what do we want to do today? When the political leaders come in and say that, when the churches come in and say that, when organizations that are running and fighting for the same ideas, right?
Mm.
When they can come and say, how can we do this better? When the coaches can come and say, let's talk on eavesdrop and let's find out. And I'm not competing with you. You're not competing with me. And no, as your husband said, it's up to you to decide.
Mhm.
And in fact, mm, mm, mm. You don't even know what you're capable of doing.
No.
And when I say that, what I mean is give yourself room, give yourself time to perform, and watch what comes out of your mouth. Watch what comes out of your engagement with your clients. I have a feeling this happens to you. When I'm working with my clients or working on business plans or models or strategies, etc., and we're in it and something occurs, I go, oh, and they go, what? I'm like, I'm amazed at what I said just now. I didn't think that. That was God bringing that thing, the Holy Spirit bringing that thing in me for me to give yourself time, give yourself room, and in being gracious to yourself, you would find that when you say I know nothing, you would tend to start getting you open up. I think it opens up a capacity
Mhm.
for you to listen and hear to learn.
Yeah. I love that you said that because I think that's true because we're catalysts, right? I've always believed that, is that when I do my best work is when I am an open vessel. I'm not in my head. I'm not, early on in my coaching career, I think I was trying to fix things, right? I look back now and it's like I'm in this fix it mode, like, oh, people are coming to me asking these questions, kind of like what you were saying, you need to know the answer, you need to fix it. And anytime I would come from that angle, it just felt muddled. It felt wrong. I just didn't feel right. But then as I started to learn over the years that it was really about coming in with an open ear with no preconceived
Mm,
notions, no need to fix anything. That was not my job to fix anything. It's not why people hired me. Right. I'm not a consultant. I'm a coach. And even consultants, I think we do have things we can bring kind of back to the point of what you were saying with girls who do stuff. That's one of the things I love most about those women too, is that, anytime I've had a conversation with Sarah, she's so open to she doesn't trademark things, right? And what I mean by that
mm,
is she's not overly egoic about her things,
correct.
right? Like, I need this to be mine and I need to figure this out. And, she is very collaborative in everything.
Yes.
She does
Oh,
not
yes.
feel or see through a lens of competition at all.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I so admire her for that. I so love her for that.
Hmm.
And so when we're in that space, when we're open to, if it's like the bigger why.
Mm.
My husband was in a chat recently on Facebook about something, and someone was trying to be right. He had made a comment and this person just kind of came back at him with facts. Those facts don't line up, or the facts are the facts. And finally, his response was, what is the outcome you're shooting for here? Is
Mm.
it to be right, or is it to bring more connection between the two of us?
Mm.
Because, and I think that that's the thing, is connection, collaboration, best answer, whatever we want to call it, like being an
Yep.
open vessel for whatever can arrive that, we couldn't imagine. And so what I hear when you say, I don't even, and this is true for all of us, I don't even realize my true capacity
Mhm.
as an open vessel, right? I am limited as what I can produce within that which I know, that because I've done it or experienced it in
Yeah.
some way, seen it, heard it, whatever. I'm limited, but I am unlimited in my ability to open up as an open vessel,
Mm.
right? To
Mm.
allow other people's, I want to say influence, because that might be taken the wrong way, but to allow other people's considerations to
Correct.
land and soak in. And,
Correct.
certainly I have my own filter to figure out what makes sense and what feels right and what doesn't. But if I don't allow that, and if we're too worried, back to what you started with, we're too worried about what's my
Mm.
answer,
Yeah.
what's my piece, what's expected of me,
Mm.
right? We're always going to come from that limited space.
Yeah.
But when we're just like, I don't know, I don't know, but I'm eager to be a part of this.
Yes.
And maybe I can add whatever I have to give to the pot, stirring the pot.
Correct.
But I have to do that from a place of open, kind of, again, open vessel, which I think goes back to what you were saying about telling yourself, I don't know anything.
Mhm.
I don't know the vast amount that I do have available to my open vesselness.
Mhm.
I don't have that in me right now, but I can open myself up to being available for that to come through me. And in that, possibly good answers, solutions, ideas, considerations, whatever can come through.
Yeah.
And so I just feel, and how would that be different in these conversations that are so challenging right now between people? If instead of being right, looking good, being safe, and being comfortable, if we
Mm.
could put our egos in check enough to say, what's our bigger why? Is it to come together and like, because I can't wait. I didn't know that you were on their show recently. I can't wait to go back and listen to that episode
Mhm.
because I want to hear that. I
Yeah.
want to hear what that sounded like. I want to hear
Gotcha.
what you guys were speaking about and what came through, because
Yeah.
that's really what you're discussing. If we could allow for the bigger why of what, because we could be introduced to things that none of us have ever seen before. If we just get out of our need to put surety with security.
Yes. 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 Oh my goodness. I use you allowing
Processing.
allowing yourself to be, I know, allowing, when you were speaking, I heard you say, allowing yourself to be a catalyst,
Mhm.
and being open to letting things pass through you. What I saw was just transparency, right? As if you were transparent and porous, highly porous, and coming through to go out, and from the words of individuals coming into you and being processed so that you can take it, filter, as you stated, and restate with an even better, better, better information, because you have a three-way now where it's coming through you, yourself, plus that person coming in and saying stuff to you. Uh, and I was listening I heard ego. I was reading something and I just saw the word ego, and I don't know. I said emotion go. Emotion for the E, and G-O, go. Emotions just go. Emotions get out of here, because most times we're passionate and our passion comes in, throughout. We're like, I'm not going to do that. And when you remove the emotions and you quit raising your voice and using caps, and you allow yourselves to be even keeled, and use um, lowercase without the exclamation marks, you will surprise yourself. You'll surprise yourself in what you deliver, in what you say, in how you state it, because we always tell our children, you may be right, but your delivery, whew, we're so quick to hear what we want to hear. And when you are speaking harshly, when you're speaking with all that angst and bitterness, we don't
Mhm.
hear you. We just see the container. We don't taste what's in it. Could be sweet, could be great, but the container is so filthy.
So hard to take,
It's so
you
hard
know?
to, it's ooh,
You're like, wow, that container right now is like,
ah,
I'm having a hard time looking at it. Well,
yeah.
and what you're saying, I think is so important because, it's not just, I always say this, it's not just the what, it's the how, and it's the where. Like the where could be the why. Where are we going with this? What is the ultimate outcome that we want?
Mm,
That's what my husband was saying. What do you want to get out of this conversation? Is it collaboration and connection? Because we ain't going that direction right now, and that how part. So I see emotions and feelings differently,
okay.
right? Emotions are simply, to me, everything is information, right? So
Mhm.
thoughts, information, emotions, information. This is how I define the difference between feelings and emotions is we
Gotcha.
have a thought, and that thought then kind of comes through our brains, and we have to connect it with something that has meaning for us,
Mhm.
right? And so we give it a meaning. Well, that meaning triggers emotions. And when those emotions mix with the thought, the meaning we're giving, it becomes a feeling, right? So we can think something, give it a meaning, have the emotion of anger, let's say.
Gotcha.
When that emotion, basic emotion, if you've ever seen Inside Out, it's a great Pixar movie. They talk about there's only a handful of emotions. There's not that many actual emotions, right? Feelings, though, there's a gazillion of them.
Mm.
So we get angry, and that anger then mixes with that story. Now we're telling the meaning we gave that thought,
Mm.
right? Or the thought could be an experience that we had. I'm thinking about this thing that I just saw happen. That then creates its own story, and we start to put together a feeling. So we may, from that anger that we got triggered, that was triggered by the meaning of the thought, we now feel things like disappointment, disengagement, things that are like the feelings. That was created uniquely from the emotion that came up in us and the meaning we gave to the thought. Right. So those feelings in that moment are ours, basically, because somebody else could have had that same thought, had a different emotion, and that emotion mixed with that thought created something else. Right.
Yeah.
So, for me, I feel the emotions are meant to emote. Like when we just sit with an emotion, it's information gathering. Right. So yesterday, for example, I woke up and I was feeling sad. And my husband was like, what's up? Like, you just seem kind of down. And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling sad. I'm like, it's weird. It's like my head is totally fine. My brain is like, it's all good, but I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling for whatever reason. I'm trying not to give it a story or trying to figure it out, because it's just an emotion coming through. And what I've come to learn is we're meant to process that just like a thought, right? Is just let it come through, sit with it. It will go in its own due time. We have reservoirs of emotional backup, just like we have backup of ideas and thoughts in our heads too. Those things that we just won't let go of, those stories that we just keep wrapping our mind around over and over and over again, that we just won't let go. We do the same thing with emotions. And like when I used to do health coaching and people would go on physical cleanses, depending on what toxins were in their system, sometimes a bunch of emotions would come up because they had been trapped in their body, and all of a sudden they were giving their body the ability to release, and what needed to be released the most were these emotions.
Wow.
So they would cry. I had one woman call me at 10 p.m. at one point. She goes, I don't think this cleanse is working. I've been an emotional wreck since I started. This is making things worse. I'm like, well, then these were the things that needed to be released.
Correct.
So that's the piece. And so I just kept telling myself, whatever it is, yeah, it's uncomfortable, and yeah, it stinks, and yeah, it's kind of making this whole day harder than it probably needs to be. But for whatever reason, my body is releasing this sadness. So I need to be patient with it. I need to let it sit. And it lasted, and it was still there, woke me up a couple times in the evening. But you know what broke through at about 5 a.m. this morning was this where I was holding on to some stuck love that was like halfway between my heart and my throat. If we're talking about the heart chakra and the throat chakra, it was like somewhere in between. And it just felt, and then suddenly it was around a particular person in my life. And this thought came through that it's always there. It's just this illusion that it isn't. And then all of a sudden there was just this release. And I felt that love come through, and the sadness went away.
Gotcha.
And so sometimes we can't, like you said, we know nothing. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was feeling sad. And if I had not allowed myself the expansion and time to just be with that emotion, instead of trying to either make sense of it, which I used to do all the time, just try to intellectualize it so I could put it in a box and stick it in the corner, or squelch it down in some other way. Like some people choose addictions to try to,
Go
not
shop, go eat. Yep.
right. And whatever it is, but it doesn't go away until we just let it go away. And so, I mean, yeah, like in this convenience oriented society that we live in, where it's just like, this is inconvenient. Kind of like me having to go back to the bank so many times, it's inconvenient, but it is what it is. And for whatever reason, I may never know what that was absolutely attached to, or how long I'd been carrying it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I let my body process it. And now all I know is I don't feel it.
You know, wow, very interesting.
Mhm.
My experience with emotions and so I'm cleaning up the office here where you're seeing a beautiful looking place, but if I turn the camera on the floor, a sea of papers.
Let's see the papers now.
No, a sea of papers that, and I was looking through and I saw 2018 how I had to run to Liberia because my mom she had ulcers in her stomach and blood had dropped to what, two plus, or maybe, I mean, she was just terrible, fainting. And so I had to go down, fly her to Ghana for medical, fly her back to Liberia, and then fly her with that kind of little or no oxygen in her blood, hemoglobin at what, 2+3
Mm.
at that altitude, uh for her to make it here, and she's back home perfect, both my mom and my dad. But here's the deal: I saw the receipts. I saw the all the receipts that I had, the airline tickets, the food. I remember I'm in a cafe in Ghana, nobody there, and in a cafe eating, and people, friends coming around and sitting. I remember the first night we just had to sleep. My dad and I had to sleep in the hospital room with my mom because we got there late, and just, I mean, just all kinds of, because it was just rush, 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 had to move. And then the emotion that came up was I started to cry. And I was so grateful for how the finances came together. I had money, my siblings and I had enough to go from here to Liberia, and then taking care of mom in Liberia and me flying back. But then everything from finding out what the issue was and trying to troubleshoot it in Liberia took all of the money, all of the money. I had a ticket to return. But here's the deal: I didn't have a penny to go from Liberia to Ghana. Talk about to take both my parents with me to Ghana and back to Liberia and back here. But God just, in less than 2 hours, I don't know why this thing is coming up, but it's coming up. In less than 2 hours from driving from the house in Konga Town to the airline, had zero. In less than 2 hours, I had $3,000 in my pocket. $3,000 in my pocket. How did that happen? That's why when I looked at those receipts, I just said to myself, wow, God, the miracle, and the emotion. Yeah, I think we're talking about emotions. And I just cried and was so grateful that it happened. And how I can tie that back for us to bring it back to what we're talking about is, I knew nothing going into this because I thought I was going to go, get there, handle mom, and fly back to the States. But I had to go from Liberia, from America, US, to Liberia, to Ghana, spent 7, 8 days in Ghana, back to Liberia, find a way for mom to come and dad to come, and we flew back here. Didn't know anything. However, it all worked out. Now, you may be listening to this thing, somebody who's out there who's attempting, there's a huge 5,000, 20,000, $1 million. So what? Money, look, it's all going to work out. It is all going to work out. Give yourself time, breathe. It's going to work out. And you will not die in this process. You. Wow.
You know what I'm feeling is this is coming up for you because you know what emotions do for us? They ground us to our body.
Mm.
When we feel like our thoughts, we don't have to be aware of our body when we're thinking, but when we're feeling,
Hmm.
it takes that body, right? We feel in our body, we feel our heart hurt, or we feel our stomach seize, or we
Mm.
feel our heart flutter, or whatever it is. It grounds us into our body. And when we are in this body, we're soul in a body. And I think we go through life and we have a conceptual remembrance and understanding of what the story was, right? So you could tell that story of what happened. But when you have the emotion come with it, it grounds that story into your body and you feel it.
Mhm.
You feel the story.
Mhm.
And we're supposed to feel our lives. We're supposed to feel how our experiences impact us, right? That's a big part of why we came here into these bodies, right? Is to have that felt sense and experience.
Mm.
So when we're not feeling, we're half alive.
Mm.
We're working up here, but we're not having the full bodied experience of our lives. Emotions allow for that. And so you said it happens so fast. It's like, you're in this the space of the mind, and just, thinking and doing what's next and whatever makes sense in the
Mm.
moment. And so the entire experience probably felt very out of body. In fact, I think you said it felt surreal. It's like very out of body, that you never probably had that opportunity
Hmm.
to ground that story. So now you
Mm.
get to do that. That's beautiful, because
Yeah.
now you have the full bodied experience of what happened to you, and that gratitude now has been grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so grateful for life though, Tracy. Um, I the plans we have, we don't know, Tracy. We don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring. We don't know. Tomorrow you could hear Wulwyn transitioned, you know? And what's left with all the stuff that I was about? Or my son wears my jacket, and I go, "What are you doing with that jacket, Wulwyn? Didn't you say?" Because it was his jacket that he gave to me, and now he got it. I'm like, "What you doing with that? You give it to me, man. What's wrong with you? That's my exercise, Daddy. I just saw it in the garage. I'm like, man, put my jacket. I said, when you finish, put my jacket back." Jokingly in that, but the most serious thing, don't ride my car. Don't, all that stuff is so, it's it's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. These things here, these things, this this kind of, that that beautiful face and all. I mean, it's nothing. In no time we were gone, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what's hidden me is the fact, when I come with I know nothing, that transitions into the fact, the understanding that, as you said earlier, it's this bra again. God, how do you guys do it? Jeez. The understanding of it's an
Thank
undershirt,
you.
y'all.
Thank
It's
you
an
for
undershirt. It's an undershirt. The understanding of surrender. Because when you surrender, you're saying, you're not saying you're useless. You're not saying you're not doing anything, because I wouldn't be on this talking to you. You're not going to work on your business. No, no. You're working on it, but you have a real clear sense of life. That this thing, I'm going to love Tracy. I'm going to love my husband. I'm going to love my wife. I'm going to love my friend. You said it. You let the body feel. You're being, you are there, you are present. So this 1 hour we have, this hour, I'm going to put my all in this hour, because I'm not going to get this hour again, Tracy. I'm not going to get it with you. No. But we're recording it, but I'm just allowing myself to be.
Mhm.
Ah,
And it feels really good, doesn't it? It's like my client said when he was in that productive hour, or actually it was half a day, that productive time.
uh-huh.
I said, you are honoring yourself,
Yeah.
right? You are allowing yourself to be, in this case, doing things that you have been wanting to do for yourself. Because normally he says, I prioritize everyone else's needs before my own. And that's where my significance comes from, is being there for other people. And so I tend to insert myself so I can feel significant. But I don't want to do that anymore. You know, I don't want to feel like I have to insert myself and fix things and do this and do that in order to be significant. Being significant is doing the things I need to do for myself. Because again, we've talked about this a million times, it's the oxygen mask thing. If we don't, and
Correct.
nobody else, it's like, first of all, I always think about it, it's not just about being, you know, an asset to others, it's about not being a liability too. You
Correct.
know, because if
Correct.
I don't take care of me, then all of a sudden I'm so depleted, I'm sick and I'm drawn out and I can't do anything. And other people have to take time out of their day to take care of me.
Wow.
And there isn't anything inherently wrong with care. But when we do it because we're not taking responsibility and accountability for our own lives and prioritizing those things for ourselves, then it is something different. Right? We all get into those accidental situations, you know, where we, or not even accidental, those situations where we ask for the support of others. But if it's because we haven't been taking care of ourselves or we've been putting ourselves last, that's the liability piece.
Wow.
And so, you know, I think that I see it as my responsibility, you know, is yes, to receive support when, like, to your point of the conversation with Sarah and Jenny, you know, when we can put our supportive ideas or, you know, I can bring this because that's my genius and you bring that and that's your genius and all of our geniuses together make this, you know, wonderful solution. But that's a different thing than having to rely on people because I'm not doing for myself. Right. And so I just look at that and feel like this freedom that you spoke of, this place of liberation, you know, that you've gifted yourself with because you've grappled with the stuff that, you know, I mean, the discomfort, the feelings, all the stuff that we grapple with, like my daughter, you know, feeling like she had to kind of come to a level of discomfort in order to discover where she could do things differently. You know, that's what we do. But if we don't allow that, you know, I wrote a blog post a couple months ago about, you know, the culture that can't be uncomfortable. And when we don't allow ourselves to be, you know, we label hard emotions or hard thoughts as uncomfortable, or even sitting with somebody else's, you know, perspective that's different from our own, uncomfortable. Some people have taken it so extremely where they're like, it's dangerous. Okay, somebody else's perception of things isn't dangerous until we put dangerous action to it. Right? An idea, I mean, we say, no, that's dangerous. I mean, if we're just letting people influence us with ideas, it can be. But when we stand firmly in our ability to decide and our ability to, again, take other perspectives and work it through our own filter and our own lens and what feels right to us, then sitting with other people's diverse perspectives and thoughts and opinions and different ways of making sense of the world is not inherently dangerous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that when people try to shut down other people's freedom of speech because they say that speech is dangerous. I mean, I'm not saying we have to agree with it, but what I'm saying is that when we label that, we are suddenly taking away this. I mean, we say take away freedom of speech. Okay, that's taking away from everyone. We don't just get to pick and choose, you know, in our opinion, who's dangerous and who isn't, and they can't speak, but I can. Right? We're really starting to label, and that becomes dangerous. Right? I think we get to put parameters on things, and when people act on certain perspectives and things, that's where it can become dangerous. But simply speaking, you know, that part of that is learning how to build resiliency in the uncomfortableness that comes with somebody presenting something that you don't agree with. And I just feel like we get to lean more into that. And part of it, it goes back to what you were saying, is stripping ourselves of thinking that we know everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's, as you were talking, there was something I wanted to ask us. Taking care of yourself, and it was my why for coming to spend an hour here with you and talking to others, because part of taking care of yourself is saying no to the things that you think you need. I don't think I'm not sure if I told you. Did I tell you how I was getting a bit too busy and I resigned
Yes.
from? Okay, good. Resigned, and I had to go through everything I was doing. And I said, okay, Traci, spending an hour on eavesdrop. What's my motive? If my motive is to go and to get clients, to show something, I'm not going to do it. If my motive is to go show off, I'm not doing it either. If my motive is one of love, to come in and express ourselves and be vulnerable and authentic and come and speak to one another, ignoring who's listening and helping each other. And if they can hear something and say, you know what, I learned it, then I want to keep on doing that. So my why for being here, which as I just stated, I went through it and said, you know what, I'm going to stay there. I'm going to keep doing it. Uh,
Mm.
it's because of those reasons, Traci. And want to know what's your why?
I love that you shared that and that you brought this up because I think it's so important. So many people are doing that, kind of cutting like this just doesn't feel right. So off it goes.
Hmm.
And I like the intentional discernment of asking that why. Like, what is my reasoning? Maybe it feels like it's not fitting, but why isn't it fitting? Why is it or isn't it? I love that. For me, it's growth. And I think we talked about this once before. We've talked about it a couple times before, and I don't know if it's been on camera or off, but this is your questions and what I lean into most in my relationships with people, because I feel like the older I get, the more discerning I get with the people I want to surround myself with.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't mean that I just choose people who are just like me, right? In fact, if anything, I found, and I've always been very diverse in the types of people who I surround myself with. I've always, always appreciated, if anything, people who bring something completely different to the table because I'm curious about what's different that I'm not aware of. And so, but your questions are always, they make me think about these kinds of things. And I like to do that. I like to constantly grow.
Mm.
And just like any other human, we all have blind spots. You've said things to me that I've gotten off, the call, or, gotten off our chat. And, for a whole week, I'll think about. It's like, oh, he made this, and it wasn't even a direct comment. It was almost a side comment. But for whatever reason, I glom onto that because that was the piece I needed to hear and think about. And I do.
Mm.
And for me, as the person I am, that's gold. Anybody who gets me to think, I always say that when I do talks, I don't really want a standing ovation. I'm fine with it.
Mm.
But I would almost rather hear a pin drop, because that means people are thinking. That
Mm.
means what I gave was valuable enough for them to let it enter their mind, to contemplate it.
Wow.
That means it's a value to them, because hopefully people are just letting in what's valuable, right? We don't want to let the trash in, because that just takes up space.
Correct.
So if people are silent, it means they're mulling it over, which means it's valuable. And that means I've done what I came to do.
Mm.
Right. So I feel the same way here. It's that, it's fuel for me. And I do have belief that, this is why we started, right? As we both said, maybe this could be beneficial for others. We're not attached to that. We're not saying it has to be. We're not saying people have to continue listening,
Yeah.
but if it is of value, we want to put it out as an offering. And
Correct.
that still continues to be why it's worth my time as well, is
Mm.
because, it fuels and feeds me and makes me grow and expand, which I feel makes me a better person. And if anything else in that process can help other people to do the same, then it's worth my time.
Wow. Wow. And this is where I turn the question on to the listeners. Why are you doing what you're doing? You heard our reasons. And if you look at our reasons really, um, they're a part of a vision that we have. Is a vision that we have. Yeah. What Traci just stated, what I stated, is a vision, is part of a huge vision of just helping people. It's something else around there. Why are you doing what you're doing? Find that out. And when you find out it's for selfish reasons, trust me, it goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. But if it's if it's something that adds, because you have to give value, provide value. Traci, you got 30 seconds for us to shut it down. You give us our closing words.
I like adding value. I keep thinking, because we always talk about what are we going to call this, and we've talked about, so many different things. So I'm going to leave this one to you, because I'm not quite sure what to call it. I feel like we've gone to the not knowing, we've gone to the, to the getting clear, what's your why. But I feel like, so I don't know, I'm going to open myself up to say, I don't know what to call this. And I think maybe, what I'd love to do? I'd love to know people's thoughts on what they think we should call it.
That's true. No, that's true. That's true.
It's like, what's hit you the most? Those people listening to this, what's hit you the most today? What's come through the most for you? Because, I feel like, again, to the not knowing, giving a bow to the not knowing, I don't know what, stands out for other people. And I'd be curious if people can, put their thoughts in the, even if you're listening to this afterwards. I know Wulwyn usually works on getting this edited and up, within a couple of days, but, anybody who can add some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have to name it ourselves, and we'd love to get some input.
And I'm going to name it in the next 30 minutes, so you better hurry up.
Yeah. I like that. You give definitive time. That's so important with setting goals.
Call it surrender. Who knows?
Surrender. Yeah, but I just would love to hear.
Yeah, we must hear what they have to say. You're right. Yeah. Traci.
Wulwyn, it went so fast.
Another one in the bag.
Another one in the bag. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you. And thank you for folks coming on Tuesday. There were fewer, but we'll put it up hopefully tomorrow, and tell them to come and watch it. Traci, have a safe trip. Come back in one piece.
Thank you. I'll do my best. Thank y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.